Pat Kirwan is not bat blank crazy, and he covers the NFL for NFL Radio. He co-hosts an afternoon drive show called Moving the Chains. He's part of CBS's NFL Today show. You can follow Pat on Twitter at @PatKirwan_NFL. His weekly appearances brought to you by Pinchers, Tampa to Key West. Many points in between, including 8 locations in Southwest Florida. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, top of the morning to you. It's fall where you are. How are you?
Yeah, I thought I'd mail down a little weather for you guys just to break the monotony. And it's only a one-dayer, though. I didn't have enough money to get you a whole week. So hang in there.
Pat, injuries, the story of week 2. We'll get to the good football. I want to start close to where you are. You know, Shanahan all up in arms over that field. We didn't have a problem with Pittsburgh and the Giants, or at least not that I'm aware of. How on point is Shanahan regarding the field?
Well, you know, these fields get evaluated all the time, and you should always know how the field's going to be before you get there. The guys who operate for the league office are very diligent about these fields, and they take no nonsense from these owners or the public stadiums. I've seen them go in there and say, you got 3 days to put a new field down, and they do it because they have to. So the guy who ran the fields was a guy that I worked with for a long time, and he retired this year. So I don't know who's in charge of that, but that's what's going to happen. Those complaints are going to go right to that desk. And if that guy or woman has not been on top of those things, then there'll be a change. So the league is pretty strict, and clubs call all the time complaining about a field. And they usually, someone in the building talk to someone who played on that field. Hey, was the field okay? You're always got your guy who's handling the trip, who's the hotels, the buses, the planes. Oh, and the field. And they should always double back to someone who's played on it and make sure that they have gotten clear information. Hey, apparently these guys had a problem. Or if they say they didn't have a problem, then it just surfaced. So it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, someone always seems to get fired.
The Jets and Giants both scrimmaged on that field. Remember, no preseason games this year. It has been pointed out the Giants played at night versus the Jets-Niners game being during the day. Is it possible the sun made the field even whatever? I believe you're talking about George Toma. Pat, could this be a shoes thing? Could this just be that whatever the shoe is of the Niners, gripped that turf better than, quite frankly, what the Steelers and Giants and Jets have been using?
You know, there's another pet peeve of mine, the shoes. Like, there is no legal or law by the league or the teams. It used to be you think the teams would control the foot gear, but they don't. So these guys can wear anything they want. Now, when you go on the road, most players bring a couple pairs of shoes, 2 or 3, and then when they go out at 10:30 in the morning, they'll try out their shoes to see what they like. But I wish we managed the foot gear better, because I've got a lot of foot doctors who come on my show. One of them in North Carolina who's done a lot of these Liz Frank surgeries, who said these players are allowed to wear basically slippers, and they get injured from it. He goes, he can't understand why the league is not on top of that. And why the owners aren't, because you're losing multi-million-dollar players all the time to foot injuries. And the list, as Mark said, the injury list is big this week. So that has always been a loose area. So half the time they worry more about who their shoe deal is with. And you'd be amazed at some of the things players do. And the league tries to tell you can only wear this brand, but what they do is they get the shoes they like, and then they strap that insignia on top of the shoe. Well, underneath it's really a shoe from somewhere else. I've seen plenty of those. It's funny watching a guy, and I'll just use one arbitrarily here, trying to paint a perfect swish on white tape. About an hour before the game in his equipment at his locker.
Pat, Atlanta Falcons special teams coach, to my knowledge, is still employed. Dan Quinn's hot seat became too hot to sit on. I mean, Pat, I know you don't advocate for firing, and I'm not necessarily doing it, but from a surprise factor that somebody didn't get sent out the door yesterday in Atlanta, I was shocked. Were you surprised at all?
I talked to Arthur Blank yesterday for a while. He happened to be coming on with me anyway to promote a book he's writing, a good, all the book and everything else, and blah blah blah. Eventually, I got around to what. And as he said, when I brought it up, he goes, "Gosh, I thought we'd run out of time before you'd bring that up." So then we talked about it, and he said, "It's my opinion that they were not prepared for the situation." And I said, "Well, you know, you can have that feeling." Now, he likes to profess patience, which he has. We all know that, and he's trying to see the bright side of everything, like how many points we scored. Can we just play a little bit better defense? You know, do I think the special teams coach had them prepared for the situation? No, but I brought up a lot of things to Arthur first, and then to the listeners. First off, have you ever seen the play before? The watermelon kick, the slow. Every onside kick that we know of is a volatile, violent kick. It's either the pop-up kick or it's a. Last year, a lot of guys used that little shot right at the front wall guy. It bounced off his chest because he couldn't handle it. Or we get a pop kick, something that's going to create the ball with velocity. This was a ball with no velocity, and if you'll notice, that was watermelon kicked to the Dallas sideline. I try to bring this up to people. You would never run that kickoff to the other way. Why? Because now the Falcon coaches would be screaming, "Get on the ball!" But over there is no coaching. So, yeah, did it happen? Yes. Here's a question to you. Do you think anyone is going to use the watermelon kick ever again? No.
Yes.
Yes.
I do not think anyone's ever going to use it, because every special team coach has been with his special teams unit, certainly tomorrow morning, but probably yesterday. And we're going to dive on that ball. Remember, the kicking team can't go near the ball for 10 yards. So when that thing was spinning around slowly at 7 yards, I guarantee you the Falcon players felt this is going to stop before 10 yards. And that was a tactical error on their part. And then they didn't even understand. I think the guy who was closest to it was an undrafted kid out of a small college. Wrong guy to be in that position. But did I think the special team coach was going to get fired for that? Yeah, I did. After Arthur said my players weren't prepared for that, I thought that was the death knell. But Arthur, as I said, is pretty patient. I think everybody's on the hot seat in that place, no matter how long their contracts are.
Pat, Saquon Barkley, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas,
Right.
Cortland Sutton, Bruce Irvin, Marquise Blair. I mean, all ACLs. Listen, women's basketball went through this 15 years ago, in which all of a sudden everybody tore their ACL, and the sport was kind of like, what's going on? People are going to bring up, hey, injuries, no preseason. Do you think this is a fluke, or do you think that this might be the one downside to very little football before we played football?
No, we didn't get anybody hurt during the preseason because we weren't wasting time in preseason games and scrimmages with other teams. We used to get a lot of ACLs in the summertime. And so Dr. Chow, who was the team doctor for the Chargers, who's a regular on my show, was on yesterday. He comes on every Monday to review injuries. I asked him that question. And he said, well, Pat, we didn't really have any last week, so it's going to average out right about as always. So I don't think everyone can blame. If you wanted preseason, here's your chance to blame no preseason. I am not blaming that, because I know how many injuries happened during the summer, which didn't happen, and they didn't happen week one. My opening comment yesterday was week 2 should have been week 1 in the NFL. We had week 1. And it was relatively calm. No quarterbacks went down with injuries. A lot of guys, not a lot of injuries. So what happened week 2, it happens. And Dr. Chow tracks this for, 20 years. He said, we're probably right on schedule considering where we were. And he knows by the week, considering last year with a full preseason and week 2, he knew exactly how many ACLs we had. And he said, we're right on schedule. Just happened to come in a flurry this year. And he's a doctor. He's not minimizing things because he's not the team doctor anymore. So he has no political agenda. He just said, we're just probably right on schedule, and I'll keep you updated weekly. But it was a disaster. And that's not the only thing. We had PCLs, we had ankles, we had rotator cuffs, we had knee injuries, Achilles, hamstrings, turf toes, pecs. it was a bad week.
Very bad week. And, Pat, you mentioned, the preseason. Also, we didn't have OTAs where we always lose a guy doing damn near walkthrough drills. They're running at half speed also, and someone blows. Every year we lose guys in these OTAs. So that didn't happen either. So I think all of that needs to be factored in. Pat, I don't know how much Pro Football Focus matters to you. And it's just one of the many analyticals out there, but I'm just looking at a tweet that I saw before you came on that said Cam Newton's 83.4 PFF passing grade is his highest through 2 weeks in his career. Oh my goodness. The New England Patriots, I know they lost at Seattle the opposite way that they won the Super Bowl, but this Cam Newton guy, I don't know why. It seems pretty obvious now why no one seemed to want Cam Newton on their team because, he doesn't have anything left, Pat.
No, isn't that the political statement of the year? Like, first off, why did Carolina Panthers let him go? Okay, how they looking? So the first thing is you imagine if he was back on his team, and they decided they didn't want him, so shame on them for that one. But so when he told me, I said, you got to tell me why you took the minimum deal. And he said, which I've said on this show before, I wanted to be coached by Belichick and reinvent my career. And when I talked to Belichick, all he wanted to talk about is everything great about coaching Cam. That this guy is the hardest worker. And I asked him, what surprised you? And he said, the work ethic, the desire to win everything. He wins every sprint. We do a up the hill running drill. He wants to win every one of those. He's absorbing Josh's offense, and they've nicely blended in his Carolina stuff to go along with the Patriot stuff. And he's just wants to be great again. And he is in the middle of doing that. And he's young enough, and he knows it, to land up with a 5-year deal after this if it goes the way his plan is. And then the plan's kind of hitting every stride. So, does the league continue to keep giving Belichick reasons to be another Super Bowl coach again? Because they don't see life the way he does. And that guy, he lost to Cam twice. And I've said this before. You go back to Vrabel and a lot of guys. As soon as certain guys become free, Kyle Van Noy, he jumps on him. He jumps on him because he wanted them way back when. And I'm sure somewhere when he was losing to Cam twice, he looked at Cam as, man, I'd like to coach that guy someday. And then he saw the game evolve into this athletic quarterback world. And someone wanted to hand him on a silver platter a gigantic 260-pound athletic quarterback who could throw, who had some mechanical issues. But Phil Simms said it to me the other day. He goes, they're working on his feet. Jimmy Miller thinks his throws to the left still need some work because he doesn't get himself set to throw over there. I'm sure David will go over that with his compadres that are all quarterbacks. But he's in the middle of being reinvented, and he's doing really well at it, so I'm happy for him.
And sometimes you do have to be lucky. The Patriots didn't jump on Cam for 4 months. Okay, everybody else could have jumped on Cam.
Sometimes talking the whole time.
Yeah, well, but sometimes you do have to be lucky, and the Patriots probably had a little bit of fortune here, but I'm happy for both. Pat, there are some teams that have not used to being 0-2. Minnesota, Philadelphia. Goodness knows Dallas was as close as you could be to being 0-2. But between the Vikings and the Eagles, which one are you more concerned about?
Minnesota. Maybe they did too much in the offseason, throw out their whole secondary, bring in a bunch of kids, then say goodbye to Diggs. Maybe it was just too much for them. Philadelphia, I don't think either one's, and I picked both of them to be wild cards this year. So I noticed you didn't pick Houston. Houston's been in this role before.
Well,
is the best 0-2 in the business, Kansas City and Baltimore. And back in 2018, they were 0-2, and they finished 11-5. So with the Watson, they can do it. I am concerned that the other two are just – although for Philly, the division sets them up to stay alive, right? Look at that division. They can stay alive in that thing because it might be a 9-win champion in that thing, maybe 10. But so the question is, for those two teams you brought up, David, are either one of them going 10-4 the rest of the way?
Probably not. And in the end, but
they're
with
not
the
worried
but with the 7th playoff team, like 9-7 last year would have been the 7th seed in the NFC. So maybe, just maybe, you could get in with 9. And for the record, for those listening, the reason I didn't bring up Houston, Mark and I have been pounding the table for months. Texans' early season schedule's brutal. Texans' last 9 games, they might be favored in all of them. All right, honestly. So
inside their own division, they've beaten up their own division.
Right.
So until Tennessee can beat them, until Indianapolis can beat them, it's Houston's division to lose. You know, last week, Pat, you enlightened us that before you come on with us, you send the AP your power poll. And even though you don't like your power poll, with Seattle as good as they've looked, their defense has been giving up a ton. They lost 2 more guys. Arizona's looked great, but we don't know. The Packers have looked good. I'm really curious right now. Who's your top, like, I know it's pro, it's not college, but who's your top 5 right now in the NFL, Pat?
Baltimore is 1.
Okay.
And who they're playing and how they're playing. Kansas City is 2. Seattle is 3. Pittsburgh is 4. Green Bay is 5. Buffalo is 6. Arizona is 7. The Rams, I didn't see this one coming, 8. I still have the Patriots in the top 10. I think they're going to be fine. And then Tennessee. So it fizzles. New Orleans, you know, they'll climb right back once they get back on a winning streak. But that's how I see it. So the AFC is pretty strong up top, 3 of the top 4. The Pittsburgh defense is going to keep you in every game. And the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, is going to get better by the week. So I think they are in great shape as the 4 team. And Green Bay, I love how many people bet everyone last year. They were 13-3, but they were terrible in the playoffs. So let's bash them. They are already 2-0 in the division, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And Pat, I made a little wager, and I got the over-under at 8.5, and I feel pretty good about the Green Bay Packers getting 7 more wins the rest of the way.
I would like to get in on that, but it's too late. I'm with you on that. You know, so the bottom is a disaster. You can put both New York teams right at the bottom of this thing. I gotta be careful about some of the 2-0s that are up there. Like the Raiders, they're 2-0. You got to give them some respect. I talked to Gruden this morning. I love calling John. What I knew was 4:30 in the morning at his place. And I got him, and he right away, hey, congratulations, John. I just checked to see if you're still asleep. I'm not asleep. You know that. Did I want you on the air today and say, you were sound asleep this morning? He goes, no way, baby. He probably didn't sleep at all after beating the Saints.
Hell no.
Yeah. So you look at those guys. Carr played Here's what I loved about the game last night. How many 10-play drives John had. You start looking at that and start thinking of what he's done just last night in 10-play drives. See, and I said this to Kurt Warner yesterday. I said, don't you think the Raiders are kind of, because of the way they throw the ball short all the time, that they really are boxed into being a 10-play drive team? They're not taking deep shots. They really haven't taken deep shots. Carr is always criticized for not doing it, but you wonder how much of it's built in to the offense, deep shots. So they have to be successful, a methodical team. And you go look at yesterday and see how many times they had 10, 11, 12-play drives. And that's the beauty of John's offense. If you can do it, they're going to, control the ball, and they're going to have these long grinding drives, and they had a bunch of them. So maybe they're right on their game right now. I'll keep a closer eye on them in the next couple of weeks. They got the Patriots in New England this week.
Yeah, as we've been saying.
Right away, 2 minutes after him accepting my accolades, I said, hey, maybe we should get together on the radio for a while. He goes, we got that schedule. We're already on a short week going to New England. They're really good to us,
Pat. And we have pointed out, Pat, the last time Gruden took a Raiders team to Foxborough, a dynasty was born. Right. So don't bring it up. Pat, very quickly, though, you mentioned the Steelers. The Titans are 11-4 since Tannehill became their starting quarterback. We wondered, is there someone to challenge Baltimore and Kansas City in the AFC? Between Tennessee and Pittsburgh, do you think one of those two or both are legitimate heavyweights? They may not be the top of the class, if you know what I mean, but do you think the Steelers and Titans are advancing from light heavyweight to heavyweight?
I think the Steelers have always been on and either they are heavyweights or they're coming back to one. I think they're loaded this year when you look at them. Good in the secondary, pass rush is exceptional. He's stout up front. Actually, the front three will generate some sacks. The quarterback's back. He's got all these sports car receivers, if you will. Plus, he's got a big tight end now, and he's got Claypool. The line banged up right now, but should get repaired enough at some point for them to be good there. Snell kind of showed us there's a little depth at running back. They're the heavyweight. Unfortunately, only one of those teams, Baltimore or Pittsburgh, is going to win the division, and the other one's going to have to come from the wild card world. But I do think Pittsburgh, we'll see how this whole series goes with the Ravens. But I would be betting on them before Tennessee because you're asking me to believe in Tannehill before I believe in Ben. That's not happening.
Fair enough. He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio moving the chains with his radio partner Jim Miller every weekday afternoon, and also part of CBS's NFL Today show. Yes, quickly.
Oh yeah, real quick. Did you hear all the kickers blaming the empty stadiums, the wind chills, and all this other garbage? They're a bag of wind because this week the kickers went 56 of 61. What are they going to blame next week?
That doesn't.
I don't know, but if Justin Herbert plays and plays well, I can guarantee you I'll ask you a Tua question next week, Pat.
First off, say goodbye to. They can say what they want. This is Herbert's team now. He played great.
Damn right it is. Played the whole week as a Pat. He goes the whole week as a 2. He doesn't think he's. I mean, that to me is the more remarkable part. He didn't go. He didn't prepare as a 1, but he did.
No. And how calm and collected did he look on the field? On the sideline, he never looked like anything. But I'm here now. That's all. Very
well. And every young quarterback looks better in those jerseys. They do look great. Pat, as always, thanks for your time and your insight. We appreciate it. We'll talk Friday.
Very good. Thanks, fellas. Take care.